Good afternoon. I've had the pleasure, privilege, and honor of welcoming to the Google campus Dada Naba, also known as the Monk Dude. Dada is a meditation teacher, a yoga monk, author, singer-songwriter, and speaker. He is originally from New Zealand and was ordained as a monk in India in 1979. And if you have the image of a monk as being somebody in being very reclusive and retreating off to a monastic environment, then perish the thought, because since then he's traveled, spoken, and performed in 40 different countries, including once in Brazil in front of the Dalai Lama and 10,000 people in the audience. In fact, I myself had the distinct pleasure of running into Dada once at the Yoshi's Jazz Club, where he had come, where we had both had gone to listen to Malian singer Salifa Keita, and I was intrigued. Who is this person in orange with the turban? I need to talk to him and find out. And it turned out he's one of the most interesting people I've ever met. Dada is the author, has produced 8 musical albums. He's the author of the book, the meditation book, Close Your Eyes, Open Your Mind, which has been translated into 10 different languages.
Yep, just 10, just last week. Vietnamese.
Vietnamese being the latest. He also teaches a course on meditation and how it unlocks creativity at the University of Berkeley, and speaks on this topic to several corporations all over the world. I'm delighted once again to welcome to the Google campus singer, songwriter, performer, author, and yoga monk and meditation teacher, Dada Naba, also known as the Monk Dude. Dada.
Thanks so much, Gopi, and thanks very much for inviting me back to Google, because I was here last year. Who was at my talk here last year? A couple of you were? Okay, good, because I got to tell you, I discovered since then that everything I told you then was wrong. No, I'm just kidding. But at least most of you weren't here, so I can reuse some of my Google jokes from then. So I'm going to be speaking to you about meditation and the idea of the enlightened leader, and how meditation can help you to develop love, creativity, and wisdom. At the beginning of last year, I was speaking at a corporate conference, and at the end of the presentation, we had a short meditation and chanting session. And just afterwards, one of the directors of the company came up to me and thanked me and said, you know, I want to say that was the first time, just that short meditation was the first time I've felt peace in months. And it really struck me. So I thought, wow, this is really serious. That, you know, there are so many people in the corporate community who are silently suffering, and what I've got to offer is kind of more valuable than I realize, because I take it a bit for granted. You know, I've just taught them something, short meditation. I've done it 1,000 times. It's no big deal for me, but for her, it was really important, and perhaps for many others. You know, if you develop a regular meditation practice, it can remove most of your suffering, if you experience anything like that, from stress and anxiety and the related kind of problems. How many of you feel that you suffer from some kind of stress? It's pretty much universal. Believe it or not, I do too. But not very much compared to what I might do if I didn't use this practice to help me. But you all probably knew that already. Everybody knows that meditation relieves stress. Probably everyone at Google at least, because you've got a whole big meditation program here. It's called the Search Inside Yourself. I believe it's free on campus. It's all over. It was started in Google and it's gone out to other companies. You also have somebody whose job, full-time, is to make sure that people that go to that program actually practice. Because they discovered that lots of people went through the training but then didn't keep the habit. So that's his job. And you know, Google's paying him to do that. So it's seen as a priority by somebody somewhere in this company. But most of you probably already knew that meditation relieves stress. But what I'm really interested in is how meditation does way more than that. There are a whole lot of other benefits from meditation that I actually find more exciting. I'm going to talk about 3 of them today, and that is how it can develop love, creativity, and wisdom. And to how it can help you to improve your relationships. That's what love does. Yeah? How wisdom, as you develop it, can help you to make much clearer, better decisions. How creativity can make you more innovative. And we're going to use the ancient science of yoga. We're going to draw on that to get to that result. And yoga is a very misunderstood word these days. Most people think of it immediately as some kind of exercise session that young ladies go to because they want to be young forever. That's just one of the bits of yoga. There's a system called Ashtanga yoga. Yoga has 8 limbs, like my friend here. That's in the Sanskrit, so asanas means postures. That's the yoga postures. The first limb of yoga is called jama, and it roughly translates as don't be evil. That rings a bell. Is that familiar to anybody here? Your company was founded on the first principle of yoga. See, this monk dude's not so stupid after all, right? So what is yoga really, if it's not just these exercises? It's all these other things. It's a whole lifestyle, it's a philosophy, it's a value system, and a set of not just physical exercises, but mental exercises, concentration exercises, breathing, and different meditation techniques, all designed to develop your body, mind, and spirit in harmony. So when I talk about yoga, I mean the whole big yoga, not just the physical exercises. The other thing I want to clear up, which might be misunderstood sometimes, is that I'm not actually a religious fanatic. You could be forgiven for thinking that because I'm kind of dressed like maybe I'm a religious fanatic, you know, maybe. But this is something I like to address at the beginning of my presentations, because sometimes somebody will come up to me at the end of a concert or a talk or something, and they'll ask me, you know, kind of shyly, "Why are you dressed like that?" And I realize that they haven't been able to think of anything else the whole time. They didn't listen to a word I said. So better that I answer this at the beginning. And it's very simple. I'm from New Zealand, and everybody in New Zealand dresses like this. Okay, that's not completely true. There are 3 other monks like me from New Zealand, so at least 4 of us out of 4 million. Now, this is the traditional color, or orange or saffron is the traditional color worn by monks and nuns from Oriental traditions, like Buddhism and Jainism and Hinduism and yoga. And it symbolizes self-sacrifice. And the turban comes in handy in case a real religious fanatic throws something at me, you know, to protect my head. So that's a little bit about why I'm dressed like this. Leadership. Why am I even interested in the idea of more enlightened leaders? It's really simple. Leaders have power, they have influence, they act as role models, and the world, humanity, is in a situation where we're facing the greatest number of incredibly complex problems that we've ever faced in history. And I think right now we could do with some really, really good leadership. So I want to do whatever I can to enhance that. But being an enlightened leader is more than just, you know, a fancy title, like head beagle. You know, Snoopy was once elected the head beagle, and he found it a lot of responsibility, and he said that, you know, I have to make a lot of decisions. Today I made 147 decisions, all of them wrong. So if Snoopy's not our ideal leader, then who is? Do you have some people that you look up to that you think embody the kind of qualities that you look for in leadership? Let's have some examples. So it might be somebody in your personal life, it might be your mother. My mum was the head of our family, no question. Or it might be somebody, you know, prominent, I don't know, a famous comedian, I don't know. So Tell us some figures in your life, somebody in your life who's inspired you that you feel has played that role for you.
Both my parents.
Your parents, great. And what qualities, what particular quality do you think they embodied?
To be firm about your desires without being a jerk about it, and without compromising people around you.
Okay, cool. Let's have some other ones. Yeah.
I would say a number of teachers I've had.
Teachers in the school or college, yeah? Cool. And the qualities? Looking for the qualities.
And
Try and give us one word definitions.
authenticity.
Authenticity, fantastic. Down the back there, you had somebody you were inspired about?
No, I wasn't hearing the answers repeated. I wanted to make sure you repeated the answers.
Okay. What about some famous personalities that we might have all heard of? Who's your favorite? Is there anyone you look up to? I was always a big fan of Nelson Mandela. And I would say, if I had to choose one word, that he embodied forgiveness. And that's a huge inspiration to me and to the world. Some others?
Gandhi.
Mahatma Gandhi. And what does he embody?
One word is hard. Unconditional love.
Unconditional love.
A guy I worked with 20 years ago who came here, Eric Schmidt.
Oh, yeah.
Not a single word, but a phrase, smart and balanced.
Okay. Not coffee.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So those kind of qualities, and there are a whole lot more, that's what I've been trying to develop consciously since I was 19. And that was way back somewhere in the Pleistocene era, as far as I can remember. So it's a work in progress, but some change I can detect. So how do we do that? What kind of tool? Obviously, meditation is one, but there's a lot of detail here that we can kind of look at. Okay, I just want to go back to, just remembered somebody I admire. How did I get into this? How did I start off doing meditation? If you'd told me when I was about 12, which was just after I became an atheist, that I'd end up being a monk, I would have said you'd lost your last marble. Because I had a very different ambition. I wanted to be a wizard. I wanted to be wise and strong and kind, like Gandalf, who defeated the evil, dark Lord of the Rings. You may detect a flaw in this plan. It took me a little while for me to figure it out, but I finally realized that wizards don't exist. So I had to adopt a more realistic life goal. I like playing music, so I thought, why don't I become a rock star? But when I was 19, I had an experience that changed everything. It was a kind of epiphany, you can say, a very powerful spiritual experience. Imagine all the love in the universe condensed into a single moment, floating before you like the sun. So real that the rest of your life seems like a dream. And in that moment, I realized that the purpose of existence is to become one with the source of love within us. And I felt inspired to walk the spiritual path as a yogi and master my mind through meditation, and hopefully to become a teacher and help other people find the path to happiness. I'd finally found a life purpose that actually made sense. So I left my university, and I left my country, and I went to India. And there I studied the intuitive science of Tantra Yoga and the ancient wisdom of the mystics, and I studied under a great master. That was a long time ago. But you don't have to become a monk like me in order to get the benefits of meditation. I have a friend, his name's Mike. I met him a few years ago. And Mike is a manager of big projects. He was running a $100 million project. And he was under a lot of pressure. He would get up at the crack of dawn and jump in his car and drive it through the traffic like a weapon and yelling on the phone at contractors. And it was really, get to work and continue his day like that. The stress was really telling on him. He came to a workshop of mine where he learned meditation and a chanting technique. Before he left, somebody suggested to him, why don't you get one of these chanting CDs so you can play it in your car? I think there must have been a passenger in his car at some point. They wanted him to slow down. He said, no, my CD player in my car is broken. There's been a Beatles CD stuck in there for 3 months, and I haven't bothered to fix it. But at the last minute, he thought, oh, I'll get the CD anyway. Comes down to his car, opens the door, and the Beatles CD has popped out. So he took that as a sign, so he started listening to this chanting in his car, and instead of yelling on the phone and feeling like he's at war, he was relaxed when he got to work, and he was nicer to people. He got along with people better, and he laughed more often. And then he started meditating in his office before he'd go home, and his workmates would kind of comment that his office felt kind of peaceful. And then he'd created this sort of sanctuary in his office space. And as he changed, his surroundings changed as well. So what did love, creativity, and wisdom do for Mike? Through being more creative, he was able to innovate in the ways that he did things. Through developing more clarity and wisdom, he was able to make much better decisions because he wasn't so emotional. And when he developed more feeling of love and connection, all his relationships improved. And this didn't do too badly for his career. Right now, he's helping to build the $4.5 billion Apple spaceship in Cupertino. Creativity. Creativity is a kind of power. With creativity, we've learned to manipulate our environment, and we've taken over the world. We've built all kind of cultures and civilizations. Every city and ship and corporation like Google and piece of music and book, and not to neglect the 357 different types of toothpaste, started with an idea. Ideas are powerful. Creativity has enabled us to take over the world, and that's why when IBM conducted a very extensive study in 2013, trying to find out what qualities are organizations looking for in future leaders, they found that the #1 quality they were looking for was creativity. So how do we tap into our creativity? Where does creativity come from? Would you like to know if you're creative? Who thinks they're creative? Some of you. Okay, I've actually developed a test. This is the only 100% effective psychological test in the world. It's called the Monk Dude's famous creativity test, modestly named by myself. And all it requires for you to stand up and answer one question. You don't even need to speak, you get to answer it with your bodies. I have one question for you, and that is, who amongst you was not, at some point in your life, a child? Okay. If you were never a child, remain standing. If you were, you can sit down. I just did this exercise in Mexico, and somebody remained standing. And I thought, every room has one. There was. I always tell them to remain standing in the back corner, but you're all too polite. All children are creative. They love to play. Creativity comes out of that kind of mode. So our inner child is still there, but as we grow older, we develop this other side, the kind of critical adult. And the critical adult tends to suppress the creative child. That's why at Disney, they're not allowed in the same room. They literally have separate rooms for creative thinking. Disney, movies, studios. They have separate rooms for creative thinking and critical thinking. And this was Walt Disney's own policy, because he understood that these two cannot operate at the same time. So how do we connect to that inner creative child that we all have? I just proved it to you. I learned the answer to this when I started meditating, and I didn't expect it. I started meditating because I wanted to become enlightened or something grand like that. But one of the first things I noticed was that suddenly I started getting all these ideas for my music and my poetry. That's what I was into. It was like I turned on this tap of ideas somewhere inside. And I remember sitting and I was learning a piece by Beethoven. It was his first piano sonata, the last 7 chords of the first movement, for those who are interested. And it seemed so beautiful. And I was transported, and I felt for a moment, really, I felt that I was Beethoven at the moment that he wrote this music. And I was feeling what he was feeling. It was extraordinary. And I thought, this meditation's doing something really different to me. I don't know, I didn't expect this. What I learned very soon afterwards was that the yogis who had developed these practices, they understood, they'd figured this out ages ago. They had a whole map of the mind and which bit's creative and how you tap into it, what technique you use to get to this. And they developed a system for developing, amongst other things, love, creativity, and wisdom. And it's all related to the different chakras, but I'm not going to talk about that today. That's grade 3. So the middle one, creativity. So the yogis divide the mind into 5 layers. The first 2 you're probably familiar with, the idea of conscious mind and subconscious mind. It's not exactly parallel to this system, but it's very similar. And then they divide this 3rd layer, which is lumped together in Western psychology, into the unconscious. They divide that into 3 layers of intuition. And the first of those is creativity, and we can tap into that with a particular meditation technique, and that's what I discovered. It really works. So I'm going to read this over here. In fact, I'm going to do this because I need this device here to be able to read what I wanted to read. Okay. I was really excited. After discovering that, all that time ago, you remember, that was a long time, right? I was really excited to discover some research. It's hard to find very good research on creativity. It's really easy to find research on stress related to meditation, but creativity is much harder to measure. But Leiden University in Germany, a group of cognitive psychologists came up with this result. They said that certain meditation techniques can promote creative thinking. The advantages of particular types of meditation extend much further than simply relaxation, which is what I've been telling people for years. I was so happy to find this. Ka-chung, that's, that's what I thought when I saw this study. So creativity is power, gives us power. But not all the things that we've created are as beautiful as a Beethoven sonata. We've also created terrible weapons, oppressive forms of government, exploitative systems of economics, toxic chemicals, the Spice Girls. Terrible outcomes have come from the creative mind, which is why it's so important for an enlightened leader also to cultivate wisdom. A few years ago, I met a young man. He impressed me very much. It was at a meditation retreat, and he was meditating. And his mother showed me an essay he wrote for his school. It was called 30 Things I Believe. I'm going to read you part of it. I believe life is good. I believe God is in everything. I believe we are all equal. I believe that when I meditate, I feel peaceful. I believe we should be generous. I believe kids should respect their parents. Any parents here? You agree with him? I believe people should go outside more. I believe we should help the Arctic and rainforest animals. I believe God is in good and in bad. I believe in magic. I believe people should not give up. Right? I believe love is everywhere. I believe we live best in community. I believe we can protect people in danger. I believe we should help the poor. I believe it's okay to die, but not to kill. I believe war should stop. I believe we can make peace. when Tarak MacLean wrote this, he was 6 years old. I should tell you, he's a teenager now. He has blue hair. He's not as cute as this anymore. But this blew my mind, and a lot of other people. He went on NPR and so forth. You don't need a PhD to have wisdom. Many of us confuse knowledge, information, with wisdom, but they are very different things. In fact, well, anyone read Lord of the Rings? You remember Saruman? He made some very, very bad decisions. Very smart guy. And Gandalf called him a wise fool. I thought that was pretty cool. There's a piece of research being done at Toronto University where they were trying to correlate intelligence with rational, balanced decisions. And the result that they found was that there's no connection. The harsh truth is that greater intelligence does not equate to wiser decisions. So I know you're all, a lot of people in Google have done a lot of work on their education, a lot of smart people, but this doesn't necessarily mean you make better decisions. Joseph Stalin was probably a pretty smart guy, right? I think you get the point. So good decisions really come out of a combination of rationality and intuition. Intuition is a different kind of function from one of these, or several of these higher levels of mind. And if we just develop our intellect and reason and think that's going to solve all our problems, you're dreaming. We need these subtler faculties. And many great thinkers have pointed this out. Einstein for sure, Steve Jobs always talked about this. There's a lovely quote from this writer. Oh, this is a real photograph of a Google employee, of their brain. Okay? The actual contents of somebody working here. I'm not allowed to say who it is, but they're in this room. It could be you. Yeah? So what are you doing with your mind? We're all intelligent. We've got a lot of stuff going on thinking, but what are we thinking about, actually? I think that the great majority of it, going by my own mind, the great proportion of it is junk. And for most people, it would be a huge benefit to learn to think less and just think, keep the quality ones. Keep the quality ones. I'd just keep the Star Wars previews and get rid of the rest. I know. So yeah, intuition. If you slow your mind down, to get your intuition back, you get your intuition back when you make space for it, when you stop the chattering of the rational mind. So once again, these two functions are mutually exclusive. Okay? And actually research into intuitive insights amongst indigenous tribes has revealed that they generally are much more intuitive than city dwellers and educated intellectuals. We're out of balance, and we've lost something in that process. So wisdom comes out of a nice combination of rationality and intuition. Love. Creativity has enabled us to conquer the world, but only love can conquer your heart. I'm not talking about romantic love. I'm talking about something much bigger and certainly more dependable than that. I'm talking about the kind of invisible glue that creates friendships and families and communities, the sense of connection that enables us to look at a stranger and see ourselves in their eyes, or inspires a little girl to share her ice cream with a puppy. Edgar Mitchell was an Apollo astronaut, and when he was coming back from the moon, he had an extraordinary experience, a euphoric, an insight. And he said this: you develop an instant global consciousness, a people orientation, an intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world, and a compulsion to do something about it. From out there on the moon, international politics looked so petty. You want to grab a politician by the scruff of the neck and drag him 250,000 miles out and say, look at that, you son of a bitch. I'm my kind of astronaut. I love this guy. Oh, I just gave the game away. Oh dear. You know, to develop this sense of connection and this sense of community and this sense of friendship and really feeling what other people feel. The most effective way to do that, well, you might think I'm going to say meditation if I hadn't already given you the clue. But actually, what I've found in my experience is most effective in doing this is music. And that's why in our practice we use music to lead into meditation. Music's the language of emotion. If you get back from work and you're kind of tired and you're a bit down, you put on your favorite piece of music, what happens? There's an instant mood change. It takes seconds. It's very powerful. It resonates with our nervous system and our chakras and all these, the whole body and mind. So before meditating, which we can do in a little while, we use music to put you in the mood. And then it's much easier to concentrate. If you try and go straight from kind of work mode, you know, you've got to be serious, you've got to make money, and then you've got to suddenly be peaceful and not be thinking too much, it's very difficult to make that transition without something to shift you into the right kind of emotional background. And that's what music does. So I use music as a lead into meditation, and you'll find it in so many different spiritual traditions also. Just about every spiritual tradition uses music for this same reason. So how does meditation work? A couple of questions I want to ask you. Firstly, who thinks that to meditate you have to stop thinking? Maybe. You know, this is often confusing. The end result of meditation might be a state where you're not thinking. But to get there, it's very hard to get there by trying to stop thinking. It's pretty much impossible, because the mind is a thinking machine. It's designed to think, and you have to kind of lead it by a more roundabout route. So I'd say that meditation is, you get there by concentrating, learning to concentrate on at least one thought or a single flow of thoughts rather than wandering all over the place. And that leads you to a state of deep peace. So I think that's a misconception. So I think that meditation means equals stopping thinking, the practice. Maybe the end result, but not the practice. Second question, who thinks that meditation is the same thing as mindfulness? None of you. Because you know I'm going to say that that's not true, right? And you don't want to get it wrong. Okay, a lot of people actually do think meditation is the same thing as mindfulness, but nobody in this room, clearly, because you're all way too smart for that, because meditation is more than mindfulness. Mindfulness is a part of meditation. It's kind of step 1, or it might be step 3, but it's a subset. So, oh yeah, just to give you a very, this is a very eloquent man. I think you know who that is, Jim Carrey. So he's speaking about an experience that is, I would say, beyond mindfulness, just so you get it really clear.
A few months ago, I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing, and how thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. And then I suddenly felt like I was looking at these thoughts from another perspective. And I wondered, who is it that's aware that I'm thinking? And suddenly I was thrown into this expansive, amazing feeling of freedom from myself, from my problems. I saw that I was bigger than what I do. I was bigger than my body. I was everything and everyone. I was no longer a fragment of the universe. I was the universe. And ever since that day, I've been trying to get back there. It comes and it goes. It's like riding a wave. Sometimes I'm on, sometimes I'm off. But at least I know where I want to go.
I could not have put it better myself. So we lost a little time at the beginning because we started late. So I want to skip forward and actually get to where we're going to meditate. Okay, I'm going to run through this fast. Neuroplasticity. You know what neural pathways are? When you think, your brain changes. If you keep thinking in a particular way, you create neural pathways. Our thinking habits change our physical brain, and it changes our personality. You know, we used to think that the brain was a static physiological organ, but that understanding's changed completely. And thinking, it's a little bit like water. You know, it doesn't have a particular form. It's kind of soft, but that's very deceptive. It can be very powerful. You know, if water keeps running in a stream for a long time, this can become this. So keep thinking happy thoughts, and you'll be a happier person. If you keep thinking angry thoughts, you'll become an angry person. It's very kind of reassuring to me that this new discovery of neuroplasticity has confirmed something that yogis have known for 7,000 years. Thought is extremely powerful, especially repetitive, concentrated thought. And that's one of the secrets of meditation, that type of concentration. It changes your brain, it changes you over time. To do that, we use something called a mantra. You know, wizards use magic words, but yogis use mantras. So a mantra is in this case, a Sanskrit kind of word of power. And it's repeated or sung, and it really helps to bring us into that meditative state using the sound and also the meaning behind the mantra, the kind of power of positive thinking, which is demonstrated in neuroplasticity. So the mantra we're going to use has 3 words, and we're going to put some music to it. And it kind of means love is the essence of all. It's a very positive idea. So to meditate, I want you all to sit straight. Feet flat on the floor, please. Hands cupped in your lap, thumbs together. And hopefully this is all going to work. Okay. So first let's get the mantra straight. Can we get the mantra back? Thank you. I want you to pronounce it with me. So it's pronounced Baba,
Baba,
Nam, Kevalam.
Kevalam.
And all together, Baba, Nam, Kevalam. Very good. So as I said, that means love is the essence of everything, essentially. So you're welcome to sing with me if you want. And then I'll guide you through a very short, silent meditation. Baba Nam Kevalam, 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 keep your eyes closed and breathe through your nose if you can comfortably. And let the mantra and the music continue silently, as though you're hearing it, as though your inner voice were singing to you. Singing to you and reminding you that within you is a place of perfect peace and love and harmony. And it's always there. And you can return to it if you pay attention. So just let the music and the mantra continue in your mind by itself. Let that be your focus for a couple of minutes of silence now. So I've seen this kind of practice and this kind of lifestyle transform people from, really somebody who maybe had a lot of problems, really didn't know what they wanted to do, into somebody who was very centered, very open-hearted, much more connected to their source of wisdom and creativity and love. And I think that with this kind of practice, we can create a new kind of corporate culture where everybody understands that health and well-being have no price, that people matter more than things, and that the solution to most of our problems is really right inside of us. There's something in yoga called a mudra. A mudra is where something that kind of connects the mind and the body with meaning. It's a language of the body. So this idea can be represented with the hands. Hands are creative. We've created all kinds of things. We build things, we write, we play the piano, we use computers. Hands are creative. There are these amazing creative instruments. But without your head, they wouldn't know what to do. So the head is like this, and your mind, if it doesn't get guidance from your heart, it doesn't always make the best choices. So there's a mudra in yoga called the Namaskar Mudra, and it goes like this: the hands, the head, and the heart. Let's all do that. Then you'll remember it. Muscle memory, So the hands are creative, the mind can produce wisdom, and the heart is what connects us to everyone else. So thank you all very much. That's called the Namaskar Mudra.
Namaskar.
We've got a little time for questions, and I can also give you a little bit of information about where you can learn more, if you'd like. But let's see if we have any questions. Yeah, tell me. Do we have a mic? Oh, you can use the guitar mic. Just pretend you're a guitar, it'll be fine.
So, actually, I had two questions. The first one was, earlier on, there was a reference to research that certain kinds of meditation can improve creativity.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if that meant certain kinds of meditation are particularly good for creativity, other kinds of meditation may be good at other things. Is that what was meant by that? And what kind, in that case, what kinds of meditation are particularly good at bringing about
the practice in Ashtanga yoga, this eight-limbed yoga that helps to develop the level of mind that creativity arises from, is called pratyahara. It means sense withdrawal. It's a kind of, well, there are various techniques of sense withdrawal, but effectively it means to withdraw your attention from the world and focus your mind inward. And that's usually done through visualization.
The second question is about so being aware of how, as one thinks, so one becomes. And sometimes we're in situations where there are fears that come up. I'm in trouble, I need to perform better at work, and my mind is thinking, how am I going to do this? And if I lose my job, then I'm going to lose this, and then we can't afford to pay for that. And the mind, you're trying to sleep at night, and the mind just keeps going on and creating this. And I know, yes, these thoughts are not helpful. These thoughts will create more fear. I don't want them, but I don't remember choosing to have these thoughts. They just keep coming by themselves, and they're very, very stubborn, these ones that are attached to these deep fears. And I was wondering, do you have any specific recommendation for when you find yourself in that kind of situation?
Well, there are some things that can help, when the problem pops up, but meditation is more effective as a preventative. So what I would say is that if you practice meditation, and actually specifically spiritual chanting, you tend to get, this really addresses anxiety. You tend to let go of that kind of, fear-based anxiety when you've been practicing for a while. So, on the spur of the moment, I don't have a magic bullet to come along and say, oh, this is going to stop you being anxious. But if you do these practices regularly, it's probably you're not going to get like that. Yeah. While you're wondering about that, I might tell you what you could do next. Read my book. Yes, everybody should read my book. It's available in 10 languages, including Vietnamese and Norwegian and blah, blah, blah. Lots of people think it's a good book, not just me. The other thing is, if you want to get a recording of this kind of chanting and a guided meditation, you can give me your email or just text it to me at that number, and I'll send you a link where you can download a couple of sunrise and sunset meditations, which a lot of people really like, and the music's great, I have to tell you. It's recorded with another musician friend of mine who's a fabulous guitarist. And you can also get I'll also send you the slide set if you want to get some of the pictures. Everybody wants the picture of the little girl with the dog, the puppy feeding the ice cream. Other stuff, what else do I do? Well, you can just write to me if you've got any questions. If you want to learn more, I do one-to-one coaching. I teach workshops and retreats and stuff like that. So that's all available. And that's my website, The Monk Dude Speaks. So if you, that's kind of my new corporate website, which was very beautifully put together by Emily. Thank you. Emily's also collecting testimonials. If any of you would like to say something about what you got out of this, or so we can use that to inspire other people to maybe come to programs like this. So that's going to be happening sort of straight afterwards. I think that's everything I'm going to tell you, unless you've got any other questions.
How do you lead the horse to water? I know some people that could benefit from it, and you tell them about the possibilities yet. I
know 7 billion people who could benefit from it.
Yes.
Yeah. So people that aren't, well, there's a very good book called 10% Happier Anybody read it?
I did.
Yep, okay. So there was a guy who's super skeptic, you know, this ABC journalist, Dan, what's his name? Dan Harris, thank you. So Dan Harris, excellent, I mean, he's a brilliant writer. Well, he's a nationally famous journalist, so he better be. So, yeah, he was super skeptical, tremendously resistant. But what convinced him was the science. So, you know, science is the religion of the day. The research proves that meditation helps you. You know, people that do it have known that for 7,000 years, but nowadays we only believe it if we can see it in a laboratory and all the figures. So we have those figures now, and for you know, demonstrating a lot of the benefits. The more subtle benefits that I'm personally most interested in are harder to prove, as I indicated, and creativity is just the beginning of that. But the more tangible benefits, the physiological, stress-related benefits, there's no doubt. That's one way to do it. Get them to read Dan Harris's book. That's pretty convincing. Or just watch his video. He's got a really neat 4-minute video you can find on YouTube, which is brilliant expose or exposition on you know, the benefits of meditation in 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all very much. I think that's it.